What is going on, Pats Nation? It's your boy Colby, also known as Patriots Global, back here with another one. Excuse me, as I was looking for my headphones to make sure the audio was good, because I realized that didn't happen. So make sure you guys, of course, let your boy know if anything does sound off, if anything doesn't sound right. Let me know in the comment section below if you guys are getting any weird feedback or anything like that. This is new microphone. This is new audio equipment. It's very expensive. There's a lot to it. It's very new. So if anything does sound off, let me know. But if things also sound great, make sure you guys let me know too, because today we are back at it to talk about a New England Patriots loss. Everybody, can I get a what's up in the chat? But hey, look, things didn't go the way we wanted to. I know everybody's going to be asking where Rob is from House Call. He said he wasn't feeling well. He sent me that text. He just said he wasn't feeling very good, and wasn't thinking he was going to be able to get through a show. So he will not be here today. It's just going to be me. It's going to be you guys in the chat. So maybe a bit of a quicker stream. I know we've done like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Today probably going to be more so like an hour show. Obviously did our live watch party. Your boy just ended my show over on Bleacher Report. So shout out to you guys if you checked me out on Bleacher Report for my post-game show. Really appreciate you guys for following me over there and all of your support. Today's video brought to you by BetUS. We'll talk to you guys a little bit later how you can get an exclusive deal from them to have a little bit of extra fun this football season. God knows, as Patriots fans, we could use it. We could use the fun where we can get it. I do apologize, too, for starting off slow. Was trying to figure out things, if Rob was going to come on or not. Was also trying to figure out, not figure out, but also was on Bleach Report longer than expected. I got off Bleach Report at like little after 5, so stream there was a little bit longer than expected. So appreciate you guys for hanging on with me. We got a lot to get into. Patreon members are still welcome on to come in, so you guys can expect that here in a little bit. But let's just start breaking down this game, dude. Hey, let's just start breaking down this game. So the New England Patriots, they end up losing this game 17-20. And maybe it was on me a little bit. I thought the Patriots were going to win this game. And it's not because I got overhyped with the win last week against the Jets, but I look at this Titans team and they're just not good. This is not a good Titans team, and they have better roster on paper than the New England Patriots do. But heading into this game, they were the worst overall team. I mean, they were the worst graded team, the worst seeded team. They have a better defense than the Patriots do, but it's that offense for Tennessee that's been wildly inconsistent, and big part because of Will Levis, who wasn't playing in this game. And I even told you guys when talking about this game that if Will Levis played in the game, as wild as that is because he's QB1, I like the odds of the Patriots winning the game more than if Mason Rudolph plays, because Mason Rudolph, he's been in the league for years now. He's a veteran in the NFL. He knows he needs to stand tall in a pocket when pressure's there. He knows what reads to make. He knows when to be smart and throw the ball away. He's not super mobile, but it is that veteran aspect, that veteran leadership that he has to where I think he's more deadly than Will Levis is, and I still stand by that. But again, I did think that this was going to be a winnable game for the Patriots. And it was. It was winnable, but they still didn't come out with the dub. And this is one of the easiest opponents that the Patriots had all season, and one of the easiest opponents that they have left on the year. Obviously, this is the Patriots' schedule remaining. We're about halfway through the season. You got the Bears coming up next. That's also an away game. The Bears, a beatable team for sure, but that's a potential playoff team that's getting hotter and hotter as each week goes on. That is going to be a different animal that you're going to have to face, especially offensively. And that defense too, that defense ain't nothing to sit down on. Then you got the Rams at home. The Rams are a wildly inconsistent team, but they're still a good team. The Dolphins in Miami. Patriots never beat the Dolphins in Miami. The Colts, who I want to say, that's a winnable game, and it is a winnable game. But I can't say the Patriots are going to win the game based off of how they are playing. Then you have the Cardinals, who have played some really close games, especially with teams in the AFC East. They're a potential playoff team. That is not a cakewalk. Then you got the Bills twice, both in week 16 and week 18, both home and away. Those are going to be hard wins for the Patriots to get. Bills are playing some of the hottest football that they've ever played. And then the Chargers. I like to say that that's a winnable game at home, and it's not necessarily a write-off, but that's a team that's also been really, really good too, and they've paired up well past expectations. They just blew out the Cleveland Browns today. So looking at this, the Patriots needed to get a dub to get back-to-back wins. One of the only true dubs that I feel like they're going to be able to get the rest of the season, and The Patriots will be lucky. The Patriots will be lucky to end up being a 3-4 win team. And I don't think that they're going to be past that. And this was the game and opportunity for them to get right. And what was that game against the Jets going to be? Was that going to be a game which kind of switches up the philosophy? The Patriots players, they start to get back on track here? Or do we fall back into this rut? Do we fall back into this demise and the toxicity, both offensively and defensively, what's going on in the locker room, especially with these younger players? And I think that's why this win was so important, to get back-to-back wins so players get a little bit more bought in and the players themselves start to believe. Honestly, for me, the most tragic thing that happened this week was my record. My record has officially died, my friends. My record has officially died. This was my preseason prediction for the Patriots for 2024. And as you can see, I was doing very well. In fact, I was undefeated heading into this game. I needed a Pats dub to stay undefeated, and unfortunately, that doesn't happen. Week 9 was the official demise and downfall of Patriots Global. The wild part to me is the fact that I had Jets fans coming in after the Patriots lost to the Titans being like, let's freaking go. You finally lost. Your season isn't perfect now. And I was like, really? Like, is that what Jets fans are bouncing around about? Y'all went from we're a Super Bowl team to, man, I can't wait till Patriots Global is wrong on his predictions. That's where we are. Man, the fact that I got this far, the fact that I predicted and didn't have a single loss halfway through the season is still absolutely absurd to me. I didn't think I was going to predict the season perfectly, but the fact that I got this far, you know what? I'll take a dub where I'm going to be able to get it, because let's be honest, my team is not going to be giving me a lot of those. So look, let's just start getting into this game. And one of my big things too about this game was, look at my stats here, was the fact that the Patriots in no category won. And what I mean by that is there are certain categories where if you win, no, you're not guaranteed to come out with the win, but you feel good about your chances of winning. If you're able to dominate time of possession, win the turnover battle, get to the quarterback, and just have the least amount of penalties, you feel pretty good that you were the better team and you were able to come out with the dub. The Patriots, for another week, didn't win where it mattered the most. They lost time of possession. The Patriots had 29 minutes and 9 seconds. The Titans had 38 minutes and 46 seconds. Honestly, no surprise there. They were the better team significantly when it came to running the football, which we'll get into a little bit later. No surprise that they were better at dominated time of possession, but that's a category in which a team like the Patriots in their current state, they have to win. They have to consistently win on a week-to-week basis time of possession. The offense has to stay on the field. The Patriots defense has to stay off of the field. Total yards here, the Patriots only had 295. As were the Titans, they had 400. They had 400 total yards. New England had 185 passing yards. The Titans had 233 passing yards. New England had 110 rushing yards. The Titans had 167. New England had 20 first downs. The Titans had 24. The only category in which the Patriots won was penalties. New England was penalized 8 times, which still is not good. They need to still lower that. The Titans had 10. Turnovers, New England had 3. Titans had 1. Sacks, Drake Maye was sacked 4 times today. That paper-mache offensive line finally returned to the form that we all were used to seeing earlier on in the season. As for the Patriots defensive line, they only sacked Mason Rudolph 1 time. Pass rush is still an issue for New England. And then when it comes to total plays, they weren't far off. You look at total yards, you look at time of possession, and you see just how much Tennessee dominated New England, and you say, well, they had to have had significantly more plays, right? Not really. The Patriots had 65 total offensive plays today. The Tennessee Titans, they had 73. Overall, the Titans were just the better football team. And I think this kind of gets us into talking about the quarterbacks, and more specifically here, Drake Maye. Because that was going to be the storyline of the game. Is Drake Maye going to play? Is Drake Maye not going to play? What's going to happen? He plays. And we all know that he plays. But how good was he going to look from a guy who's coming off a concussion? He played 1 quarter against the Jets. Didn't look great. But he also didn't look bad. You look at that final play by Drake Maye. Maybe not the final play, but that final play in the 4th quarter sent the team into overtime. You think that you're about to be downed at the 1-yard line because Kayshon Boutte's being held. Then they end up taking back the holding call because you have The ball tipped, which, a lot of people were getting kind of mad about that on Twitter. That's the rules. If you don't like it, go at the NFL. That one you can't go at the refs about. You can go at the refs for other things in this game, but you can't go off on the refs for the lone fact that they didn't call holding on that. The ball's tipped. Holding doesn't count it. It just cancels it out. So after that, it's 4th down. Got to have it. Time expiring. You're 5 yards out. You're down by 7. If you don't get it here, you're done. Game's over. You need the touchdown and the extra point to send this baby into overtime. Drake Maye gets the snap, immediately under pressure. He's dancing around in the pocket for like 10 seconds. And not going to lie, there were several different occasions that I thought Drake Maye was going to be sacked. There was like 3 or 4 different occasions where I thought he was going to go and rush it and go into the end zone. Then he does, and he stays back. There was like 3 times I thought he was going to be sacked, and then he didn't. It took up like 10 seconds on the clock. But Drake Maye, with a buzzer beater, finally has a defender in his face. He's getting sacked, launches the ball up in the air, and who comes down with it? The guy that you probably wouldn't expect in the receiving aspect, and that was Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre Stevenson comes down with the game-tying touchdown. Nobody can believe it. The Patriots, they have all of the aura. They have all of the momentum heading into overtime. What happens? The Titans win the coin toss. Whatever. They're killing New England's defense. They're driving down the field. And then it's a 3rd down in the red zone. And this is where it got me. Now, this obviously wasn't what led to the Titans winning the game. But if they had gotten into the end zone, it would have. And I would have been going off because Jelani Tavai, I believe, was on a 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, stops Tony Pollard behind the line of scrimmage, or should have, but was being held. Tony Pollard goes up. He picks up the 1st down. No holding call on Jelani Tavai when it was clear as day. I was going off on my live stream. I was like, if they get into the end zone right here and the game ends in overtime because of it, and the refs didn't call it in a pivotal moment, I'm going off. Somehow, the Titans, just a few yards out, still weren't able to get into the end zone. They kick a field goal. They go up by 3. New England gets the ball back with just over 2 minutes, 0 timeouts, but just over 2 minutes, more than enough time to drive down the field. If they get into the end zone, they win. If they kick a field goal, the game's tied, time's probably expired, and we're probably leaving this game saying that the Patriots have a game that's tied now. The Titans have a game that's tied. And while you want New England to win, I'll take a tie over a loss any day. But Drake Maye, some good plays, some methodical plays, some really good runs. They're actually starting to drive down the field offensively. Now, am I saying they were going to get into the end zone? No. But what I'm saying is they were at least in position to kick a field goal and tie the game. And I felt confident in that. I said, okay, Drake Maye's cooking. All you got to do is take care of the football. And that's what concerned me. The papier-mâché offensive line, the receivers having drops, Drake Maye kind of having issues with turnovers in this game. What does he do? He's got some time in the pocket. He sits there. He stands back, launches the ball down the field. And Drake Maye, when he was throwing down the field in this game, wasn't good. Like, he wasn't completing the ball. It was either overthrown, it was almost intercepted, or it was intercepted. And I was immediately worried as soon as he threw that ball. And he's going to look for Kayshon Boutte. And Kayshon Boutte's just running a go route. And Kayshon Boutte was open. So I don't blame Drake Maye for taking a shot down the field to him. But it was like Drake Maye drifted him with his pass. Again, Kayshon Boutte, he's running a go route. He's wide open. All you got to do is hit him down the sidelines. But Drake Maye, instead of throwing outside the numbers, threw inside the numbers. So Boutte, instead of running a go route, now has to curve into the middle of the field to try to make a play. And now you have Hooker, the safety for the Titans, on the other side of the field, now sees the ball being launched, is able to come into the middle section of the field, make a play, intercepts Drake Maye for the second time in this game, and calls game. Drake Maye has to put that ball in front of Kayshon Boutte to where Boutte's only going to be able to get it, hit him in stride, but make sure you're throwing it outside of the numbers. Throwing it inside of the numbers, you know that a defender is going to have enough time to come and make a play on the ball. And that's where I think Drake Maye has to get better. Does he have the arm strength? Yes. What I think he's having issues with is compensating for the amount of time it's going to take for other defensive players, especially defensive backs, to hone in on the football. And I think that he didn't expect Hooker to come in as fast as he did and make a play on the football. But he did. And unless you are 100% confident that you are either going to complete that pass or it's going to be incomplete, you don't make it. If you're even second guessing, like, okay, I think maybe I can fit this in before the defender gets there, before the safety comes over here, but I'm not sure, you don't do it. Unless you are certain you can get the ball there before, you don't take the shot. And it looked like Drake Maye, you're down in overtime. You just got this crazy touchdown, this magician play, and you say, I got all the aura in my hands. I got God on my side. I'm going to do this with my eyes closed. Launches the ball down the field, and like I said, intercepted at the most inopportune time. I said this before. I've gotten some hate for it. I'm going to stand by it. Drake Maye, both positively and negatively, is very, very similar to Josh Allen. And when I say he's similar to Josh Allen, I don't mean like, he's similar to Josh Allen because he's a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. No. To me, he's very similar to Josh Allen for the lone fact of playing style. And those are the two differences. When comparing, you can compare an elite player to a rookie when you're comparing it off of playing style and not succession. And I look at the positives and I look at the negatives of Josh Allen, and I see a lot of those same things in Drake Maye. A guy who can be clutch, can show up for you when it matters the most. A guy who has a strong arm. He has really good mobility. He has all the tools to be a multi-dimensional, a dual threat quarterback. And we know that Josh Allen is the second best quarterback in the NFL. At least in my opinion, he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. You can't deny, though, that he's top 3 in the NFL. But there's also a reason why the Bills haven't been more successful. There's a reason why the Bills have never been the first seed in the AFC. There's a reason why they've been to the AFC Championship game, one time under Josh Allen. There's a reason why they don't have a single Super Bowl appearance, let alone a Super Bowl ring under Josh Allen. And I'm not saying it's only because of him, because wins are not a quarterback stat. But I think it's in large part because Josh Allen turns the ball over in the most inopportune moments. Why are we talking about the Bills as much as we are here in 2024? That team looks different. Why do they look different? Why are they succeeding as much as they are? They've played some close games, but Josh Allen and that team shows up when it matters the most, and he's not turning over the ball. Josh Allen threw his first interception, last week or the week before? He went from being one of the most turnover-worthy quarterbacks in the NFL to being one of the least turnover-worthy quarterbacks in the NFL. And you can be the most talented quarterback in the NFL. You can pass for the most passing yards, the most passing touchdowns. But if you're constantly turning the ball over and you lead the NFL in turnovers or turnover-worthy plays, it doesn't matter. Because you look at Jameis Winston, and 2018? I want to say it was 2018, 2019, when he led the NFL in passing yards and I believe passing touchdowns, but he also led the NFL in interceptions. The Buccaneers didn't do anything. The Buccaneers didn't go anywhere. They were an explosive offense. They were a threat. But because of those turnovers by Jameis Winston, that team was always put in bad positions. They were never put in positions to succeed, even in those close games, because at the most inopportune moment, their quarterback was turning over the football. And I think that's where Drake Maye needs to improve the most, is turning over the ball. And look, I understand kind of this theory and the talk about, well, he hasn't turned the ball over a whole lot in his 4 games. Well, if you look at it, first game against the Texans, which is one of the best defenses in the NFL, I get it, his first start, he has 2 interceptions and a forced fumble? We all chalk that up, one of the best defenses, bad offensive line, first start, whatever. Against the Jags, who aren't a good defense, but they have a good defensive line, Drake Maye should have had another 2 or 3 interceptions, but he didn't because those guys dropped the ball. You see why those guys are defensive backs rather than pass catchers. But because they weren't actual turnovers, nobody is talking about them. Then against the Jets, he played 1 quarter. There's not really too much to talk about there, but I think there was a throw where even I was like, that should have been intercepted. And then you come into this game, 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. And again, the Titans, they have a really good defense. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL, in large part because of that defensive line. For me, it doesn't come down to the overall turnovers for Drake Maye, the amount of times he's turned the ball over. But I think the statistic we have to look at is turnover-worthy play. Not how many times is he turning the ball over, But how many times has he put the ball in jeopardy, but the defensive backs have just dropped the ball? How many times has he put the ball in play for a defensive player to make a move on it? I think that's what we have to look at with Drake Maye. Because he had the opportunity to come down and be the MVP in this game, win New England this game. He made a magician-esque play to put this game into overtime. But he was also the reason that in overtime, the Patriots weren't able to clutch up because he threw a terrible interception. So to me, those comparisons with Josh Allen are real. I'm not worried. I'm not here bashing Drake Maye in any way, shape, or form. He's a freaking baller. You know, I know people don't want to say he's like the franchise quarterback yet, and I understand that, but there's a real reason for excitement from what you're seeing. I also understand the fact that you have to understand what Drake Maye is working with. Today, he was 29 for 41, 206 passing yards, 7.1 yards on average, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, sacked 4 times, and an overall rating of 69.8. In large part, we have to remember the fact that he is a paper-mache offensive line. For whatever reason, the Patriots decided to switch up the offensive line in this game again. So we have to keep that in mind. We also have to keep in mind he doesn't have the best pass catchers. Guys dropping the ball. Guys not lining up correctly. Jalen Polk. He doesn't have the best receiving cast. We understand that. But there's also plays that just strictly come down to Drake Maye. So yes, we have to put certain caveats on it, but we also have to call Drake Maye out for sometimes trying to do too much. Sometimes just wanting to get big splash plays, be the superhero, be the Lord and Savior, put the cape on his back, put the team on his back. Sometimes it's okay to live to see another down, to lose the game. Because, you know, Drake Maye was the Patriots' leading rusher, and it wasn't even close. 8 attempts, 95 yards, 11.9 yards on average, longest run of 26 yards. He's balling on the ground. Like, this dude in this game was the white version of Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton. It was crazy. Like, that's not what you want your quarterback to have to do. But Drake Maye also just went out with a concussion last week, and in this game, he was flinging his body all over the field. He didn't care about another concussion. He didn't care if he broke something. He was continuously putting his body on the line. And that's my other critique about Drake Maye, is that he needs to know when to slide. He needs to know when to get out of bounds. He doesn't need to be putting his body at risk constantly. You know, go out of bounds, slide. It's not worth the extra yard or two you're going to get. Now, if we're talking like playoffs are on the line, Super Bowl's on the line, and you really need that extra yard, like, okay, you want to put your body on the line? I get it. It's a big game. But week 9 against the Tennessee Titans, one of the worst teams in the league, when your team has no expectations, you're coming off a concussion, there's no reason to put your body on the line like that. And I think that's another kind of thing that Drake Maye, for me at least, has to work on. Moving on, though, to the rushing attack. 4 straight weeks. I guess technically last week doesn't count, but Drake Maye last week, he played one quarter of football against the Jets. He was 2 yards away from being the leading rusher. Weeks 1, or rather I should say his first start against the Texans and then his second start against the Jags, he was the leading rusher for the Patriots. Last week should have been the leading rusher for the Patriots. This week is significantly the leading rusher for the Patriots. New England has to get something figured out, because what is a quarterback's best friend? It's the running game, especially a rookie quarterback. Why? Because they don't have to do as much. If they're having a rough game, they're feeling anxiety, they need kind of a breather, they can just hand the ball off to the running back and say, do the work. But when Drake Maye in his 4th start is being asked to do everything, he's being asked to pass the ball, he's being asked to run the ball, he's being asked to excel the offense past his limitations, he's going to have issues. And you don't want him to have anxiety. You don't want him to have his internal clock sped up. And these are the instances that are going to do so. Ramondre Stevenson in this game, 10 attempts for 16 yards. I thought I was reading that wrong at first, but no, I was right. 10 attempts, 16 yards. He was averaging 1.5 yards on average, 1 touchdown, longest run of 5 yards. This is now 4 weeks in a row without Ramondre, with Ramondre, that this running game has not gotten anything going, and it is absolutely killing this team. It's making them one-dimensional. It's making Drake Maye struggle a little bit. And while a big part of that is obviously the blockers, they're just not getting adequate enough blocking up front for these guys to have enough holes to be able to make moves. Like, I don't put this on Ramondre Stevenson. I don't put this on Gibson. I don't put this on JaMychal Hasty. I put it on the offensive line and these receivers to block well enough for these guys to get open. And I also put it on Alex Van Pelt. The play calling today was absolutely atrocious. And I'm sick of these games where Alex Van Pelt has a great game called and then a bad game called and a great game called and then a bad game called. He needs more consistency. That's his problem. And if he can't find some type of level of consistency over the next few weeks, he's going to have to be one and done. The inability to adapt offensively has been wild to me. You know what good coaches do? Whether you're a head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you know what a good coach does? They adapt. You can go into a game with a game plan. That's what you should do. But if it's not working out, you don't say, well, I'm going to keep running it against you until you weaken yourself. That's not going to happen. If it's not working for a reason. It's because they knew exactly what you were going to do. They were ready for it. And they are executing better than you are executing. So adapt. Switch your team up. Switch what you are doing. Roll with the punches, because that's what good teams do. If you go into this game and things aren't going the way that you game planned, and you're saying, oh, we're getting bent over and spanked, but you just continue to let it happen, you're not meant to be a coach in the NFL, at least not at the level you're at. And I feel like I haven't seen Alex Van Pelt make changes and adapt and roll with the punches once this season. When this offense is cooking, the offense is cooking, and that's because the game plan is working, and they're sticking with the game plan. But when this offense is struggling and they're getting nothing going, we don't adapt. And I felt like in a lot of ways, this game was very reminiscent to what we saw 2 weeks ago against the Jags. The Jags, who have a rough secondary, but a very good defensive line, they were constantly stopping the Patriots behind the line of scrimmage. The Patriots have been in these situations where they're in third and long, second and long conversions. And we know that this team isn't built to consistently convert on those. But over the last couple of weeks, it really hasn't, for the most part, been the penalties that have been putting the Patriots in those second and third and long situations. It's been the offense, because the offense is constantly having plays stop behind the line of scrimmage. Run on first down, run on second down. First one is stopped for a loss of 2. Second one is stopped for a loss of 4. And now you're in third and long, not because of penalties, but because you are running plays that are putting you in negative places. And instead of seeing that and switching it up and trying to find ways to get creative and abandoning your overall game plan when it's not working, we just kept doing it. JaMychal Hasty had a rush attempt in here in this game. 0 yards. Antonio Gibson had 1 rush attempt in this game. -1 yards. I'm going to be really, really curious to see what the Patriots' yards were before contact, because last week it was negative, and this week I expect it to be even worse than last week. You remember when week 1, Ramondre Stevenson had 120 rushing yards and 119 came after contact? It just goes to show that these guys aren't blocking up front the way that they need to. But it's also on Alex Van Pelt to become less predictable. Stop going outside zone, run it up the gut, run it up the gut, outside zone, run it up the gut, run it up the gut. You're going up against a very good defensive line, one of the best in the NFL, with very, very good linebackers that Tennessee has with the ability to shoot the gaps and set the edge. It was going to be hard for them to run the football as it was, especially with how bad this O-line is. Then with predictable play calling, no duh, you're constantly getting stopped behind the line of scrimmage. Run some reverses, run trick plays, run jet sweeps. Find creative ways to get guys into space, because all game long, it was predictable runs behind the line of scrimmage. And it wasn't even just that. It wasn't just runs behind the line of scrimmage. It was pass plays behind the line of scrimmage. How many screen passes did we see in this game? Starting behind the line of scrimmage. It's just things that I can't comprehend. And I do think that the Titans secondary is better than the Jags, but the Titans were having injuries. They're starting free safety, and one of their leaders to the defense in Diggs, he went down in this game. Why are you not taking shots? Who is the cornerback? Name is escaping me right now. Oh my God, what's the cornerback that's Titans cornerback? L'Jarius Sneed. That's who it is. Escaping me. L'Jarius Sneed also was inactive for this game because he was dealing with an injury. Why did you not test the secondary a little bit more? And I'm not saying you need 20 plus passing plays down the field constantly, but throw the ball in front of the line of scrimmage, for God's sake. Throw it 10, 15 yards. Start operating in the intermediate section. You have players that can do that. Austin Hooper, Hunter Henry, Demario Douglas, these are guys that operate really, really well between the 10 to 15-yard range, that intermediate section, and we're not operating there. You're going up against a really good defensive line with really good linebackers, like I said, and your game plan is to run everything behind the line of scrimmage. It just doesn't make sense. You're saying, let's base our offensive game plan and run it straight at their strengths. Instead of saying, let's pick on their weaknesses, you sat there and you said, let me think of a game plan that goes right at the strengths of that defense. Again, a good defensive coordinator knows when to call plays, but he also knows how to take advantage of the weaknesses of opposing defenses. And when Alex Van Pelt just didn't do that. And that comes down to more than lack of quality players on the O-line. That comes down to more than a lack of talent at receiver. It's his game plan. It's what he's calling. It's the inability to adapt. It doesn't matter how good the offense is or how bad the offense is. It's based off of how you're calling it. And again, with me, I've been patient with Alex Van Pelt. I've had moments where I've been like, this is a really good game. But then I've had moments where I'm like, this is a really bad game. And I'm losing patience with him. Because we need consistency. And I know that everybody doesn't want to get rid of Alex Van Pelt because that would be, what, like the fourth offensive coordinator in 4 years? Something like that. Fifth offensive coordinator in 5 years. None of us want that. We don't want Drake Maye to be in a situation where Mac Jones was and having different types of offenses, different offensive coordinators every year. But you also don't want to stick with a bad offensive coordinator because that's going to hinder Drake Maye. And if Drake Maye doesn't have a coordinator that accurately and efficiently and consistently knows how to run an offense, that's never going to help him. I mean, we're heading into now week 10. It's November. Belichick always said real football is played in November and December. Let's see what Alex Van Pelt can do for the remainder of the season. He's never called plays to this extent, and I've been giving him the benefit of the doubt. But as each week goes on, that benefit of the doubt is shrinking more and more. And if we get to the end of the season and he has not once adapted, he's not proving that he can improve, then I think he has to go. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. I think he's a really good developer at the quarterback position. But running an entire offense and being an offensive coordinator comes down to a lot more than just your ability to develop the quarterback position. There's a lot more players on the field. There's a lot more positions on the field than just quarterback. But I do want to get into these receivers and how some of these guys perform because, despite the loss, I think there were some really good receivers. I really do. And yet again, Hunter Henry steps up for the Patriots. This was a guy that was a captain last year rather. Drake Maye didn't name him a captain this year. Maybe took that a little bit personal, and he's been playing like it, especially a guy who just got a big extension. But with all of the captains going down, whether it's been Kyle Duggar, Jabril Peppers, Juwan Bentley, Hunter Henry has been reinstated as a captain, and he's been stepping up big time. This is another week where he's leading the Patriots in receiving yards. He went down with an injury, but came back. He's been a good blocker. He's been a reliable receiver. It feels like in the biggest times of needs, you got to convert here. You got to have it. Drake Maye is going to Hunter Henry, and 9 out of 10 times, Hunter Henry is coming down with those plays. 8 targets. He was the second most targeted, well, I guess third most. Well, no, yeah, second most targeted receiver today. 7 receptions, which was tied for the most. 56 total yards, 8 yards on average. Longest catch was of 13 yards. I can't say enough good things about Hunter Henry. He's had some really good plays and honestly kind of feels like the MVP for New England. Like if this guy goes down, you know that you are screwed. And if you lose Hunter Henry, you're losing your biggest playmaker right now. It was really, really good too to see Kendrick Bourne start to get involved a little bit. I know that there's a lot of people watching right now, and a lot of you guys can be honest with yourselves and say that you've given some hate to Drake Maye. And or not Drake Maye, but to Kendrick Bourne. And realistically, did Kendrick Bourne deserve it? No. He's deserved criticism. Kendrick Bourne has not deserved hate. Because I think what people forget to keep in mind is that Kendrick Bourne just started playing football a few weeks ago. He's coming off of a complete season-ending injury. And those types of injuries can sometimes take football players an entire year to come back from, an entire year to start looking like themselves. But in a few games back, mid-season, people are mad that he's not the old Kendrick Bourne. It's also a new offensive scheme that he's just now being implemented in. He's also never been able to work with these quarterbacks. Yes, he was present during training camp and minicamp and OTAs, but he was on the field taking mental reps. He was never physically on the field able to get that connection with Drake Maye or Jacoby Brissett. This is his first time doing so. So when you put those two things together, it is going to take time. Yes, Kendrick Bourne is a veteran. He's one of your biggest guys in the locker room. But these things take time. That's why, for me, I think trading Kendrick Bourne at the trade deadline is stupid. I think giving him all this hate is stupid. And I think that you have to give him the rest of this year in offseason. And if Kendrick Bourne looks this exact same way and he's not improving by the trade deadline of 2025 and you want to ship him off, okay, then we can have that discussion. But having, I think, that discussion right now is absolutely absurd. This is the best game we've seen from him so far. We're starting to see that rapport building and that chemistry and connection building with Drake Maye. KB in this game, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 41 total yards, 10.3 yards on average. Longest catch was of 14 yards. Late in the fourth quarter, Patriots were down by 7. They had to get it. And Kendrick Bourne, they started this drive, and Kendrick Bourne immediately down the sidelines, first down. Drake Maye goes right back to him the second play, another 9-yard gain. You're seeing this chemistry start to develop. And I remember a couple of weeks ago, it was Kendrick Bourne being mic'd up. And he went on over. It was Kendrick Bourne's first game back. And he goes over to Drake, man. He's like, yo, Drake, like, we got to get our handshake going. Kendrick Bourne has a handshake with like every damn player on that team. So the fact that he didn't have one with Drake Maye, I think is very telling to the fact that those two are still meeting each other. They're still getting, connected and trying to build that chemistry. And what can it look like when Kendrick Bourne is fully healthy? He's more adapted to the NFL. He's back. He has a little bit more motivation, and he has that chemistry, and he's on the same page with Drake Maye. I think it can be deadly. And we've seen Kendrick Bourne get open. We just need to see a little bit more consistency with those hands. And overall today, I feel like that is something that we saw. Ramondre Stevenson didn't do a lot on the ground, but he did what he needed to do as a pass catcher. 5 targets, 5 receptions, 38 yards, 7.6 yards on average, and of course that game-tying touchdown. Demario Douglas, I mean, he was the most targeted receiver today and didn't do a whole lot with it. Now, he was tied for the most receptions with 7, tied with Hunter Henry there, but only 35 total yards. Demario Douglas is a guy you need to get into space. He's a splash play player. He's not a guy that you're dinking and dunking 3 yards, 5 yards to constantly. He's someone you want to get into space. You want to get blockers ahead of him. He's going to get open down the field. That's how they have to start to utilize him a little bit more. Kayshon Boutte is actually being utilized as wide receiver 1. And he was targeted 6 times, 2 receptions, 18 yards. People are going to hear that and go, he had a bad game. No. Teams are putting their number 1 cornerback on Kayshon Boutte. Teams are starting to double Kayshon Boutte. They're looking at New England's offense and saying, if there's one guy we have to take away, who is it? And they're treating that guy as Kayshon Boutte. And I think that says a lot when Kayshon Boutte really only started to pop off 4 weeks ago. The rest of these guys here, though, really not a whole lot to say. Antonio Gibson did a little bit. Austin Hooper did a little bit. I like that Jaheim Bell got into the conversation a little bit here. Wasn't a lot, but they tried to set him up for a screenplay. Didn't do anything. He only went for a yard. But this was a guy that in 2023 at the collegiate level at Florida State, I believe that's where he went, Florida State, he was one of the best tight ends in the nation when it came to yards after the catch and forced missed tackles. This is a guy that you do want to get into space. And I'm glad that they at least have plays in the playbook that have ways to get him involved. Now, let's see those plays come out a little bit more. Let's see you try to get somebody like Jaheim Bell a little bit more involved, because I think he can be a Swiss Army knife. Jalen Polk didn't really do anything here. 1 target, 0 receptions, 0 yards. He had 2 bad penalties. Still not another very good game from him. You're hoping that at some point he can pop off. I mean, this was a guy that in the first 4 weeks of the season looked really good, showed a lot of promise. And then it feels like Drake Maye took over, and the opposite of what we expected to happen happened. Instead of getting better, he got worse. So hopefully he can get it figured out. But I mean, still just another rough week from him. I think he just needs to have a pop-off game where he just produces, he gets the confidence. And I think once he has that game, he's going to start to look better and be the player that we all know and the player that we all love. Javon Baker with Tyquan Thornton and KJ Osborne inactive for this game. Everybody thought this was going to be the time we see him. It wasn't. We saw him on the field for blocking plays when it came to the running game, but when it came to the passing game, didn't really do anything. Didn't get targeted once. Yeah, he just wasn't a part in the receiving game. So for all of you who want to see him get a little bit more involved, you're going to have to still wait. Special teams side of this, though, Joey Sly, I mean, I hate to say that if he made his other field goal attempt that the Patriots would have won this game, because that's very he says, she says, and that's going to change the way that the Titans were going to call their plays and run down the field. So who's not to say that the Titans wouldn't have still won? But you look at this, and the Patriots lost in overtime. Joey Sly missed one of his field goals. Could it have been different? Maybe. But I don't believe in blaming the kicker in these specific situations. I think overall your team, defensively, offensively, just has to play better. But guys, real quick, before we continue on today's video, I'll pull this up. Make sure you guys can see this. Okay, perfect. Before we continue on today's video, I want to give a massive shout out to the sponsors of this video over at BetUS. Right now, when you guys sign up, super quick, takes less than 60 seconds, and you use the code YouTube150, that is YouTube150, you will lock yourself into an exclusive 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits, all the way up to $2,000. Remember that supporting the sponsors that support the channel helps support me massively here at Patriots Global. I do everything by myself, and let me tell you, I could not be here. I could not be making this content. I could not be doing this full-time for you guys, giving you the best Patriots content out there if it wasn't for BetUS. So make sure you guys go ahead and show them some love. BetUS can also give you a 200% crypto deposit bonus. They have the fastest and easiest deposit and withdrawal process in the business. They have live wagering on all major games. You can get a 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year, and BetUS can give you your very own personalized account manager. They also have a really good betting variety, the best betting variety in the business. College football. They have NFL futures. Not only can you bet on NFL games, but you can bet on NFL futures. The NFL draft. Is Travis Hunter going to be a cornerback or a wide receiver? Who's going to have the first overall pick? You can bet on baseball, basketball, horse racing, fighting, entertainment, politics. We're about to name the next freaking president within a few days. If you guys are into politics and want to bet on who the president's going to be, this is your last chance to get in on that. BetUS has the best, and I mean the best betting variety out there in the business. Please, though, play smart, play responsible, never bet more than you can afford to lose. If somebody you know or love is dealing with an issue, please, of course, reach out and get that proper help that you need. Ashton comes in and says, please stay away from Travis Hunter. But I also want to come in here real quick. I want to get the stream up. We're going to get into the defense here lastly. But I do want to get this up real quick, too, for Patreon members. Patreon members, this is going to be your time to come on in. Post this link up in here for you guys. Pats versus Titans. All right, Patreon members, that link is up there. If you are a Patreon member and want to come on to the show, give your thoughts on this game, now is that opportunity. But let's continue this game on. Talk about the defense a little bit. The defense wasn't great. But at the end of the day, this is a very untalented defense. Whether that's been with injuries, whether that was before you traded Matthew Judon, you kind of understood where this defense was going to be, but you're losing your top players. And I hate to be the person that comes in and uses that type of excuse, but I think you really do look at the defense. And some of it is play calling, but I think in large part, it just comes down to these guys are going up against players who are just significantly more talented than them, and they just don't really have the opportunity to win their matchups because they're going up against guys that are significantly more talented than them. You have guys playing against caliber players that realistically they shouldn't be going up against. Even last week, you have Marcus Jones going up against Garrett Wilson, who's a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL. And Marcus Jones is a number 3 slot cornerback. You're out Jabril Peppers. You're out Kyle Duggar for yet another week. You're out Juwan Bentley. You're out Christian Barmore. You traded Josh Uche. Like, what are we exactly expecting from this defense to do? The biggest thing for me when it comes to this defense, in terms of why I'm frustrated, 20 points. 20 points overall really isn't that bad. The Patriots just didn't play a lot of complementary football. But for me, I feel like it was very obvious on what you were going to do. Like, this is one of the worst offenses in the NFL. I think it was very obvious that you come into this game, it should be Ridley and Gonzo the entire game. Just put Gonzo on an island with Calvin Ridley. I feel good about that. DeAndre Hopkins isn't here. They traded him to the Chiefs a couple weeks ago. Outside of Calvin Ridley, they don't have any receivers. They got Westbrook. Their starting tight end is Okwankwu. They got Vanett as tight end 2, Weil as tight end 3, Pollard as your receiving back in the backfield. Like, in the receiving game, all you have is Calvin Ridley. If you can take Calvin Ridley away, realistically, that's the only guy that should be beating you. So your main focus defensively coming into this game should have been to stop Tony Pollard at all costs. This can't be another game where you allow a 100-plus yard running back and a running back to average at least 4 yards per carry. I think it's clear as day. It was very, very obvious about what the game plan is. You just have to execute it. They did not do that. Tony Pollard, from a rushing standpoint, 28 attempts, 128 yards, 4.6 yards on average, long run of 32 yards. If you can run the ball effectively, it's going to open up your overall passing game. You're going to dominate time of possession. The team that can run the football better is usually going to come out with the win. Even Chestnut, their third running back, was cooking the Patriots. 5 attempts, 22 total yards, 4.4 yards on average, long run of 12. Even Mason Rudolph was cooking us a little bit on the ground. 4 attempts, 19 yards, 4.8 yards on average. You allowed 3 players on the ground to average at least 4 yards per carry. You are never going to win football games that way. And I think that that's why the discussion of trading Davon Godchaux for me is so dumb. Because right now, that interior of the Patriots defensive line is filled with a bunch of practice squatters at best. They're filled with a bunch of fourth stringers in a preseason game in the fourth quarter. That's what this is. Jaquelin Roy being DT2 to DT3, having to play significant and meaningful snaps for you every single week, that shouldn't be the case. If you get rid of Davon Godchaux, you can expect opposing teams to run 400 yards on you per game. But that's also why the Patriots are looking for defensive tackle help and defensive line help in general at the trade deadline. That's why it's wild to me that some Patriots fans, they want to get rid of Godchaux. There's even rumors that maybe the Patriots are shopping him. Don't create more holes for yourself. This is one of the worst rosters in the entire National Football League. You got $130 million projected in cap space. You got some picks in the draft. Use that to fill your current holes. Do not create more holes for yourself to open up more questions and try to get younger. Does that make sense? What I'm saying is you just extended Davon Godchaux to a multi-year extension. He's playing really good football this year. Defensive tackle is already a low-key need. If you get rid of Davon Godchaux, it immediately becomes a top 3 need for you. On top of all of your other needs that you have on, offensive tackle, maybe even offensive guard in some ways, wide receiver. edge rusher. Don't create more holes for yourself. That's all I'm saying. And this is exactly why you don't want to ship off somebody like Davon Godchaux right now. When it comes to Calvin Ridley, like I said, he was the only person in the passing game that you had to shut down. Like that, clear cut. There's nobody else. And Calvin Ridley, 8 targets, 5 receptions, 73 total yards, 14.6 yards on average, and long catch of 25 yards. Cooked to the Patriots for realistically well past what he should have. And I don't put that all on Christian Gonzalez. In fact, let me see real quick if we have Christian Gonzalez's numbers. Let's see. So, Christian Gonzalez versus Calvin Ridley. The early numbers are 6 targets, 3 catches, 51 yards, 2 pass breakups, and 3 tackles, which about sounds realistic because Gonzo wasn't on Calvin Ridley the entire game. But that does sound about realistic for what it looked like Gonzo gave up, which is crazy that Gonzo gave that up to Calvin Ridley, but against Devontae Adams last week, absolutely shut him down. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, even Westbrook going off for more than what he should have. He goes 50 yards. Okwonu goes for 38 yards. Vanett, the backup tight end, goes for 33. Pollard goes for 26 through the air. Weil, the third string tight end, goes for 12 yards. But again, when you're able to pass the football, you're able to run the football, that is going to open up the overall passing game for you. And I think that that's what we saw because it makes you multidimensional and it opens up your playbook significantly. I would say my top players on defense. In fact, let me go back here. So my top players on defense would be Jelani Tabai. I think Jelani Tabai had the best game we've seen from him all season long. 11 tackles, 6 solo, tackle for loss, pass defended, and beautiful, beautiful one-handed interception, which kept the Patriots in the game. The Titans looked like they were going to go up 14-0 on New England with easy chip shot field goal to at least make it 10-0. Jelani Tabai gets a big interception in the end zone, gives the ball back to the Patriots offense, and the game stays at 7-0. Great game for him. Davon Godchaux, pretty good game today too. Raekwon McMillan, I thought, had a pretty good game today also. Even Dietrich Wise. And why are you okay with getting rid of Josh Uche? Because you have somebody like Dietrich Wise who can step up, who's a veteran, is good against the run, but is also good in terms of pass rush. Today, 3 tackles, 2 solo, 1 tackle for loss, and a sack. I thought he also had a really, really good day overall. But let's go ahead and let's bring on these Patreon members. And DTM, brother, let's start with you, man. I mean, what you thinking, man? Go off.
That was so perplexing. Like, this was like an easy game. After the momentum of getting our first win since week 1 against the Bengals, that win should have been easy. And it's a heartbreaker that your predictions were cut off. I think your streak unfortunately ended, so
it did.
That's unfortunate. Yeah. But yeah, that game should have been easy. We knew for a fact, after looking at the inactive list, we should have taken advantage of it. And the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is no longer with the Titans, it should have been easy. And the Titans played us like a fiddle. It's not even close. They had their worst performance last week against Detroit, and for some reason they played well, which I don't understand. Jalen Polk, he's pretty much a liability now. At this point, we have been criticizing him for like his hands. Like, this guy needs to get off of social media and just plays his ass off, or he needs to get cut, because at this point we see, I don't know how many games he's been dropping balls, not getting the right hands, and allowing that interception, the first interception out of Drake Maye, which was disappointing. I like the fact that we know we criticize Drake Maye on a daily basis. Not really. He had a decent game, not bad, but not good enough. But I checked in the press conference. I usually keep an eye on press conferences to see what the other players think about him, and I know for a fact that Hunter Henry, Christian Gonzalez, even Jeffrey Simmons, the defensive tackle for the Titans, even praised Drake Maye for his dedication. I know for a fact that it wasn't his best game, but at least they're giving him some like positive comments about him. Like, for example, this is from Jeffrey Simmons, and I quote, "That's Drake. Nobody was surprised." This is from Christian Gonzalez. "That's Drake. Nobody was surprised. He makes plays like that all the time," talking about that game-tying touchdown pass. And then from Hunter Henry, I think I found it on Rob's Insta page. Let me take a look for a second. What the heck is it? The guy's special, man. Just the way he competes, the way he plays, the way he continues to fight. I'm excited to continue to go out there and play with him. He's very special, got a lot of talent. Yeah, even after that concussion that Sherwood made last week, thank goodness he finally got fined. I don't know how long it took, but yeah. There were a couple of players I think give Drake Maye praise, even though the media has been criticizing Drake Maye for certain things, which I don't like. And going off of the defense, yeah, the trade deadline is coming around the corner, and we need to start making picks. I know that there are like offers that people are trying to make, and we want to get enough draft capital for next season, like Josh Uche. For the Josh Uche example, we got like a 6th-round pick out of him in 2026. But yeah, I think picks are just not going to be good enough because there has to be total discipline, which didn't show. No wonder why we had 8 penalties while the Titans had 10 penalties. Nobody noticed about this. I don't know. Do you think that Ben Brown had his bad performance today? Because he had like a holding call, which negated some of the plays that we had earlier in one of the drives.
Yeah, I think he started to struggle a little bit last week, and I think this week he definitely struggled a lot more. He had some bad plays. He had obviously that holding call too. You're not asking him to be perfect, but I was always somebody who believed in. I like Ben Brown. I'm not trying to hate on Ben Brown, but I always said maybe let's calm down the Ben Brown hype a little bit. This is our future center. We got a stud, great guy, hard-nosed football. Fits exactly what you want to do here. He came in during the regular season. I think he's done very well. You have to understand circumstances, but I think let's wait a little bit to say that he's the future at center because a couple of good games. You want to see him for an extended period of time and what he can do. It's good if you can go up against, the questionable defensive tackles, but to me, it comes, can you show up against the stars? Because if you can't show up against, Jeffrey Simmons, if you can't go up against Quinnen Williams and you're going to have hard games, I might still want to look towards someone else who's going to be able to be a star against those guys. Because again, it's when you're going up against stars that you have to play your best football. And if you can't play your best football against the stars, how am I going to trust you in the long term in the most important games? So yeah, he did struggle. He did struggle. I'm not going to say that, he sucks or, he shouldn't be here anymore. Nothing like that. I just think that maybe let's say he is backup center right now. Like, I think he should be our backup center for the future. And then hopefully he can develop under David Andrews. And then, after that, maybe he can be the center.
Good thing you mentioned center. What do we do with Jake Andrews? Because he has been injury prone as of late. I don't know if we should trade him or should cut him because I know he's like on a rookie contract, right?
Yeah, so he's a second-year player. We've seen nothing from him. He wasn't drafted by this front office. He wasn't drafted by Drake Maye or Elliott Wolf. I think that he's probably on the outside looking in. I'm surprised he wasn't cut earlier. So I don't think he's the future. At this point, I think they're going to be looking for their future at center, but David Andrews this offseason signed like a 2-year deal. So, he said he's coming back next year. I would expect him to be back. I'd expect him to play under that contract. Let's keep in mind, too, that Ben Brown, he's 26 years old. So this May, he's going to be 27. So you're talking about him being the future. I don't know about the future. Like, I could see him being a good backup center, maybe a rotational piece, because David Andrews can be, not so consistent. But realistically, by the time David Andrews retires, this guy, let's say, is 28, 29 years old. Do you really want your future at center coming in being, just about 30? Probably not.
I see. There's one more thing I need to mention. I think a couple of people in the chat mentioned about this, and even in the previous stream about like AVP. Yeah, I understand this is like his first year play calling, but there should at least be some like experience with play calling. Like you have Ben McAdoo, for example. He at least at one point was like the offensive coordinator for like the Giants, and he had like a good season. And the reason why he got elevated to be the head coach at one point for the Giants, and then obviously that backfired. I don't think it would be a good idea to demote AVP and then elevate Ben McAdoo, because that would be a stupid idea, just like what the Eagles did with their DC of like demoting Desai and then elevating Matt Patricia. That would have been one of the stupidest ideas, and I initially thought about it, but then it would be like a stupid idea. And then when it comes to defensive coordinator, yeah, I didn't understand before the offseason even started to elevate DeMarcus Covington. And for the past 8 games, we're already like half in the season, and the defense regressed a lot more than what I expected. And yeah, we can say about like injuries and how the injuries impacted us, but at the same time, game planning, that was abysmal in my opinion. And I can't believe that how we allowed 41 points against the Texans. I don't know how they allowed more points than we score points, which is so embarrassing. And there were people that were trying to make proposals of having Mike Vrabel being back as the defensive coordinator, or maybe as head coach, because at least he had some experience with the New England Patriots as a linebacker. So that would have been a good idea, but at the same and then still have Drake Maye. I don't know anymore. The defense has been regressing a lot, and I don't know how the offense is going to be playing against the Bears defense, because oh my goodness.
Yeah, man. Crazy too. Shout out to William, by the way, says tighten up. We suck, but y'all played a good game. I'm not even trying to like pick at Jets fans. I think it's just crazy where I've done 9 of these games now, and every single time I got, the opposing team when we lose coming in, giving love, giving us the flowers still. Every time it's Jets fans, it's like the opposite. I don't know what it is, man. I'm asking, what is it? There's some good ones out there, but
let's say for example, Michael Hyde, one of the Seahawks fans, like whenever he came to like the pregame show, the postgame show, he still show a lot of love, even as a Seahawks fan, and I respect that. But when it comes to Jets fans, yeah, there's like a 50-50 proportion of like you have some good Jets fans, and then you have some cocky Jets fans that don't know football. And I could care less about what the Jets fans say, even though you have some good ones, you have some bad apples. But at the end of the day, it's football. We need to see how well we do November and December, because as you said earlier, this is officially football time. That's where everything starts to grind a bit. That's where playoff pictures start to happen. But we need to do a better job. I could care less about like more losses or more wins. I just care of seeing if we continue to improve, if we continue to make minimal mistakes, particularly with penalties, even though there are people that would complain that refs make these soft call penalties. At the end of the day, it's a penalty, whether it happened or not. You still need to be disciplined, and there has to be some more maturity, because nowadays you have people on social media as social media influencers, and it's becoming distracting for the team. And we don't want that to be like the downfall for the team at this point. And at the end of the day, yeah, there has been some stories about like having like the captain curse and all of that, like David Andrews with the injury, Jacoby, and then Peppers with like a disciplinary issue, Bentley with the injury. It's just a interesting like narrative of like how the being named as the captain can be like a curse, but at the end of the day, there has to be some leadership, even though we need some young and old players regardless, because players, yeah, but there has to be some maturity and then some discipline. And the question is if we can end off strong to the end of the season, even though we don't have a good roster and there's no way we're gonna make the playoffs.
Yeah, man, for sure. Well, hey, DTM brother, we appreciate you for coming on in, man. Can't wait to see you. What was it, this Wednesday on the AFC East Roundtable, man? It's going to be an interesting one. I would hope that no Jets fans will come at, the Patriots, considering y'all won a game, but you beat CJ Stroud's paper-mache offensive line and Tank Dell as wide receiver 3. So, yeah, you won, and that's all that matters. But, why are we hyping this up? I said this before, y'all. I'm going to tell it to you here. Put it on record again. Make sure you guys clip this. The Bills are the only team in the AFC East that is going to make the playoffs, and that is official. That is official, baby, right there. I'm just saying. But hey, y'all, look, that is going to end it off for today's live stream. A bit of a quicker one, and when I say quick, I just mean for what we usually do. I mean, just over an hour, still a good stream. Got into a lot of really good thoughts here. Rob from House Call should be back next week, hoping that he does feel better. Like I said, he wasn't here because he's been dealing with some stomach problems, but got some really good Patriots content dropping for you guys throughout the week, just like we always do. Of course, want to give another massive shout out over to BetUS. Right now, when you guys sign up and use the promo code that you see on the screen, YouTube150, you'll be locked into an exclusive offer of a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, followed by 125 on your next 2, all the way up to $2,000. BetUS also can give you a 200% crypto deposit bonus and a 10% back on your net losses 2 times a year. They got the best betting variety in the business, from betting on NFL games to NFL futures like this upcoming draft, to MVP, Coach of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. You can even bet on college football. You can bet on basketball, baseball, horse racing, fighting, MMA, entertainment, politics, you name it, and BetUS is going to have it. So a big shout out to them. Make sure you guys have a little bit of extra fun this football season. But guys, this is where I kick it off to you. I want to know, what did you think about this game? What did you think about the Patriots' loss to the Titans in overtime? New England, let's take a real quick look at this. Show this to you guys. New England will next be taking on, here in week 10, the Chicago Bears. This is going to be another road game for New England before they're back at home in week 11 to host the Rams. But you guys, of course, let me know your thoughts on this game in the comment section below. Leave a big like on this video on your way out. Massively supports the channel. Make sure you guys do subscribe to the channel for all your Patriots news, thoughts, reactions, breakdowns, live watch parties, all that good stuff. This is your one-stop shop for the 6-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. We suck right now, but baby, you better believe that we are going to be back. I appreciate you guys for watching. Shout out again to BetUS, and we'll see you guys in a few days. Go Pats.